Mm.
Oh.
Yes.
Oh.
Oh, look at this book right here. All of these
Oh, man.
marks. I
Thursday
love
morning.
it.
Thursday morning, my favorite handsome fellows, my favorite thing to do, reading.
What is
Oh, shoot. It must be time for book club. Oh, man.
Is
I
that what it
always
is?
forget. It's time for book club. So welcome everyone to
craziness
this
is
week's
going on this
episode.
morning?
Welcome to this week's episode of the Business Building Book Club. I'm your host, Molly from Visibility Hacking Studios. And of course, we have our favorite handsome men joining us on the road. We have Lefty the Video Jedi, and joining us soon to be on the road is the one and only mental marketer, Mark Douglas. How are you guys today? Mark, we missed you last week, so let's go first.
I'll be there soon. I'm unpacking right now. I'll be there soon. All right.
So Mark, you're in a little bit of a interspace right now because you're packing things up, aren't you?
Yes. I am about less than a week away. Well, about a week away from making a big time move. I'm going to be moving actually cities.
Wow.
So just going a little bit north of where I am right now. The city is called Austin, Texas, the ATX. Anybody out there know about Austin? Has anyone out there heard of Austin, Texas? Well,
South by Southwest is there, and one of my favorite entrepreneurs is out there, and I will introduce you guys at Funnel Hacking Live.
Oh, amazing. Yes.
My favorite wrestler of all time is from Austin.
Stone Cold, right?
Well, no, actually Shawn Michaels. The Heartbreak Baby.
So he's your all-time favorite?
Absolutely. That guy has so much charisma. Oh my god. Quite the backstory too. Oh my god.
And so Lefty, you're joining us from the road today as well. You have to go get your coffee, of course. I
did. This week's episode brought to you by McCafe.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. So today we are back into Lefty's favorite book of the season, I think, Wired for Story. So again, I chose this book because I wanted something out of our normal element. This book is written for writers. It is the writer's guide to using brain science to hook your readers from the very first sentence. And last week, we learned about that first important hook is making sure that our people know what's going on because our brains work that way. We like order. We like those stories. And so that cognitive secret we talked about last week, or one of the two of them, was we think in story, which allows us to envision the future. We want to tell stories. The story secret from that is from the very first sentence, the reader must want to know what happens next. Yeah. And so now we are thinking about the importance of telling that story, which then brings us, I should have flagged these because I'm obsessed with flags. Second secret we talked about last week is the cognitive secret is when the brain focuses its full attention on something, it filters out all of the unnecessary information. So for people who like to just dump all the information, well, we're actually confusing our readers, and we want to make sure that we can clarify things. And the cognitive secret there, or the story secret, is to hold the brain's attention. Everything in a story must be there on a need-to-know basis. So we can dump all of those ideas, but we want to spread them out. That's why a great story will have a really interesting hook. That's like the example I love to use is from Catherine Jones. She explained this, or she highlighted this example, but it's actually from Garrett J. White. He posted a picture of one of his beautiful young children, and the first line of the story was, "I almost killed my baby." Oh. So what? I want to know. Now my brain needs to know what's going on.
Yeah.
And so the way that he told the story, it was about loving his wife and treating his wife with respect. That was the gist of the story. But the way that it was laid out in the need to know basis, it was a perfectly written story from those cognitive secrets. So that's a quick refresher of the conversation we had last week. This week, we are diving into chapters 3 and 4. That's it. 3 and 4.
Yeah.
So chapter 3 is I'll feel what he's feeling. The cognitive secret behind this is emotions determine the meaning of everything.
Yes.
If we're not feeling, we're not conscious. And behind that, the story secret is that all story is emotion based. We know this. Even for our in the business world, our readers are also going through the process of conversion, right? We're trying to move them from a place of indecision, having not purchased our products or services, over to a place of actually purchasing. And it's our stories that will emotionally pull them through that experience. The story secret here is if we're not feeling, we're not reading. And so we're not going to continue. And I think that's so powerful. So before we dive into secrets for chapter 4, what do you guys think about that secret? What did you guys think about that chapter?
You know what, Mark, you weren't here last week, so I'm gonna let you go first.
Yes, I know. Sorry, I missed last week, and I still kept up with the chapters though. And as I'm with you, Lefty, this is an amazing book that I just can't put down.
Right?
And not only can I, okay, so I've been enjoying a lot of the summer, but this has been my summer read.
Yeah.
This has been the book that's gone with me, and it's been with me at the pool. And I remember I talked about my sister-in-law several episodes ago about her new venture going into the food truck space.
Yeah.
There's been some hiccups, but
it happens.
Yeah, there's been some hiccups. She's got the license. She's got the recipes, and I was actually sampling some of the amazing tacos this past weekend, and we got into a discussion about the book, about Wired for Story, because I was telling her, what's your story behind these tacos? Yeah. What is the story behind how you discovered and how you make these tacos? Because that's what's going to sell them.
Yeah.
She commenced to tell me about sitting there as a young girl with her grandma. Yeah. So with her grandma making these tacos for the entire family, and she was always getting the last bit of the tacos, and that was her favorite part. It was that last part. So whenever she has these tacos today, it reminds her of that time, just being there with her mom and her family. And that's what it means by I'll have what she is feeling. The chapter says I'll have what he's feeling, but I'm going to say I'll have what she's feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. That's a beautiful story that really puts people in the experience, especially for a food business, right? You're not just selling food, you're selling the experience. And that makes me feel like once I order, I'm going to sit down with a group of people who may be my friends or may be perfect strangers, but I'm going to have that feeling of being at a family dinner. I have family-based food, and it's going to encourage me to want to meet new people, which is so cool, simply because of a story. Boom.
Yes, and it's transferring that feeling that you have onto your reader or your listener. I thought that was really I thought that was a really big takeaway is transferring that feeling that you had and conveying that message in a story.
Yeah, that's so powerful. So Lefty, what were your feelings about this one?
Yes.
As someone who, and I want to front this for anyone who is new to our world here. Lefty is a videographer, so it is his job to tell stories from a visual perspective, and not everyone that comes to Lefty has that story scripted out or understands these secrets. And so as a visual storyteller, how has this chapter really gotten to you, Lefty?
Yeah, well, like I'll give you a great example. Yesterday, I'm a documentary filmmaker. That is what I do with all my clients. Yes, I do promotional advertising, but documentary filmmaking is that. And it's funny because I was sitting down yesterday watching a documentary on Netflix, and I don't know why, but I'm really drawn to like uh the making of a killer, or like those kid ones, right?
Yeah.
I end up watching this one. I think it was called the Lucy Blackman case.
Yep.
Yeah, the Lucy Blackman case. And it was about this girl that wants to travel the world, goes to Japan, and some way or another she ends up getting kidnapped, right? So it's funny because the overall story was a good story, but how they positioned it, how they put it together it made it boring. I had to actually watch it in 3 sections.
Oh, really?
I watch a 90-minute documentary in 3 sections just because of structure, right? So, and I've done this a lot of the times with posts, right? Like, it's not that I don't love you. It's not that you're not my friend. It's not that we're not like cool in the DMs. But if you write a crappy piece of content, I might read the first 3 or 4 sentences, and then I'm going to know whether I care to actually read the rest or not, or I'm just going to keep swiping, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
It's I really love this chapter for that specific reason, because it really goes to show that, and we talked about this last week, Molly, is that it's not, you don't have to have like the most picture perfect writing, but you need to write it in a way that is interesting and enticing to the person that's going to be reading, or in my case with the documentaries that I do, watching, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, I know, for example, like the one movie trailer that I put out for Robert J. Moore a couple days ago, a lot of people were like, oh, there's so many things missing, like where's the rest of the context and blah blah blah. And it's like, yes, you're gonna get a red band trailer. Those typically come out after the actual teaser comes out first.
Exactly.
So people were like already freaking out, like, oh, I wish there was more. I wish there was this. I wish there was that. And it's like, don't worry, 1 minute will turn to 2 minutes at some point. You know what I mean?
I think that's really exciting. Story, when we look at like funnel design, Mark, you do a lot of funnels. So when we talk about a sales funnel or a video sales letter for Lefty, we talk about having to address the logical buyer, the emotional buyer, and the
fear.
Yes. It's like, what's the other one? The scared buyer, the FOMO. FOMO is really more of it, where we're fleeing into scarcity and urgency. Absolutely. Yeah. And so when we tell a story, a lot of times people are forgetting that emotional side. They're going just into this is what's in my offer, logical. This is why it's a good idea, logical. We're going to close this cart in a day, scarcity, there's only a certain, or urgency, there's only a certain amount of seats available, scarcity, now we're playing into fear. But we don't usually take the time, we don't do a good job, overall generalization, of feeding into the emotional side. Yet it's the most powerful way to move someone with a story. So let's think about times in our business journeys where we've experienced stories that have emotionally pulled us to convert. I know I joined a coaching program. I'll just say it. I joined Catherine Jones' coaching program a couple years ago, simply because of her brilliant way of telling stories that showed who she was. So, for example, in one of her trainings, she was talking about her sister who has a lot of health issues and how she helps her sister out and how she thinks about things differently because of the experience she's been having with her sister. And I was like, whoa, this has nothing to do with business. It has nothing to do with the offer that's in front of me. But this story connects me to the person, to the guide, to the hero of the story, to the coach in the program. It rounds out who you are. And I like to say there's two different kinds of stories you need to be telling. If we want to make this super general, we want to tell stories of relatability that make us connectable, that make us relatable. And we want to tell the stories about how we've climbed our mountain, how we're super successful. If we only tell stories about how we're super successful, we become unrelatable to the people we're trying to attract. But if we only tell relatable stories, we're just a friend. We're not someone who's going to be positioned as someone who can help you achieve those goals. When you tell that beautiful mix, it's wonderful. So in my case here, hearing these stories about who the coach is, what she values, what happens outside of business, that is what turned me on and had me instantly purchasing her program. So it works.
Yes.
Have you guys had experiences with stories emotionally pulling you, Mark?
Oh, absolutely. What comes to my mind is I consider this person a pretty great storyteller, and he's one of my persons and groups that I follow on YouTube, and it's Sean Cannell from Think Media. Sean, yes. When yes. I listened to his story, and he comes from the heart. And of course, he was a former pastor. He's been on YouTube for years.
Long
And,
time,
and I think I've even seen the very first YouTube video that he made from it's when you have no lighting, you don't know what to say, you kind of just turn on the camera and you start recording. And with his story, I love how he when he tells his courses, he doesn't sell courses. He says, here is everything that I've learned from over 15 years of experience. So when you hear the story and where he's come from and where he's at now, the story conveys the result. So the story conveys the result. And then he says, here's everything that I've learned along that story, and I'm going to package it up and give it to you. So it's story selling, really.
Yeah.
It's not saying here's how to take your YouTube channel from 0 to 1,000 subscribers, even though he does have a 1K challenge. But he's already told you the story, and you've heard where he's come from and where he's at now. So the next most logical question is, well, because he's hit the emotion with the story.
Yeah.
And on the logical side, you're saying, well, how did you do that? And then he says, this is what I've done to do that. And then you only have a couple slots left. Then he hits them with the scarcity. So that's what comes to mind when I think about just being moved to make a purchase, being moved from a story. Because if you didn't tell the story, then I don't think there'd be as much interest in the the package and what he's selling.
Yeah.
No more tips. Okay. We're
Okay.
done. We're done with the 3 reasons why. We're done with the you need to know this information or else. Like, we're done. Talk more stories, less information. Okay. We're over it. We are over it. How many times can I really see the same person giving me 5 examples or 3 reasons or any like it's so overplayed now. It's like I want context. I want you as a person. Give me a reason. Like give me a reason now to follow you, right? Like you got me hooked when you were giving me fantastic tips, right? And this can correlate with a book, okay? You hooked me, okay? You gave me everything you're about in the first couple sentences, and then now you need to give me the beef of the story. You give there's no more like how much more say it's becoming dull. Like I mean, I remember when I first came into this into this world of entrepreneurship with all these beautiful, lovely coaches and online experts, and everybody literally just thought I was the cool guy with the camera. Everyone was just like, "Oh, I'm gonna have severe FOMO if I don't work with Lefty or if my content doesn't look like Lefty's." And then all of a sudden, it's like as the months went by, it's like, holy crap! There's layers to this guy. There's context behind just how good his videos look. You know what I mean? And that's why I still have people around till this day, is because I'm not just feeding them with the same jargon that everybody else is gonna feed them every day.
Yeah, jargon. That's the word right there. How many what can you buy for a jargon?
Nothing.
Probably worth a loony though, Mark.
Shout outs to all of our Canadian viewers. We've been explaining to Mark the difference between a loony and a toonie. So just putting it out there.
A loony and a toonie.
A loony and a toonie. A $1 and $2 coin.
Has any artist ever used that in lyrics?
Oh, probably. Start with Drake, and then work your way out. Yeah.
And then work your way out from there, right?
I think he does every like Canadian cliche. I think he throws them in a really like mature modern way, and just so we can get the Canadian content points.
Yeah.
Yeah, and which most of us Americans don't get it.
Exactly. All right, my friends. So Wired for Story. I'm just so happy that you guys are loving this book as much as I am. Because we all know I love seeing what people's brains look like. And so I was reminiscing about all of the work I've done putting people into MRIs and looking at their brains and connecting to what we're learning in this book of, wait, I know what's happening. I know why this is important. But on Monday, just sidebar, here's our little part of the show where we just chat. I had an MRI scan done, and it was so funny, Lefty. I thought of you because so in an MRI, most people are worried about feeling claustrophobic. That wasn't something I was worried about for this procedure. I was more worried about just staying still. I have to get my MRI because I have a bit of a weird shake I've developed. And so while I'm laying there trying to stay still, an MRI machine is quite noisy. And it does that because of the really cool science behind how MRIs work. Totally fascinating for a different show. But it has all these pulses in different frequencies. And the entire time I am trying not to laugh because I swore I went to that bad techno party in the 90s. It was just like, the whole time I was like, this is bad techno. This is
Yeah.
really bad techno. But it made me think more about our brains and the stories that we're telling. Are we like, honestly, I'm looking at my content and I'm like, I need to tell more stories. I need to tell better stories. Lefty and I filmed, I guess it was beginning of July. We filmed a bunch of stuff, and some of it was me commenting on comments people had left me. And so just thinking about that stuff, it's like, yeah, the literal comments people have sent me are, be more casual. Stop talking to the camera like you're talking to the camera in an infomercial, and start just being you. And I was like, that totally is something I need to work on. But hello to our friend watching.
What's up, Nilesh? Hey, that's interesting. Be yourself, huh? That's what he told me, to be myself. And then everyone, no one pays attention.
So chapter 4. What does your protagonist really want? So Lefty and I had a quick conversation about this. I think it was in last week's episode where the debate is, who's your protagonist in your story? So I may tell you a story about Mark, but from our position as business owners, as brand owners who are using our stories for the purpose of conversion, we need to think a little bit bigger than this book says. I want you to think about who your protagonist is. If I tell you a story about Mark, yes, technically Mark is our protagonist, but I want you to think about who the second protagonist is. That's your listener. That's your reader. That's your potential customer. You want them to be able to position themselves in the shoes of the protagonist of the story you're telling, so that they feel that they can relate to this story, so that they see themselves in the victory that protagonist has in the end. So always be thinking, when you're writing stories and you're developing stories for the purpose of conversion, that we need to keep both of those people in mind, both the character we're talking about and our listener. Because if we want them to convert, we need them to be connected. So what did you guys think about that? What do you guys think about that idea? Having those two people we have to keep in mind.
Yeah, I mean, well, yeah, like your protagonist can technically be the business owner, which I still think the story you're telling. But yeah, you're absolutely right. It definitely could be the customer as well. I think there's two types of stories that business owners tell. There's the first person and there's the third person, right? So
right.
I think when you're speaking in third person, you're more or less going to be talking about somebody else, or you're going to be talking about your avatar or somebody.
Yeah.
So in that situation, yes, the customer is the protagonist, right? I feel like in first person, it's more you, the business owner, that's the protagonist. Now, this is just a spin, but I was sitting here thinking to myself, and I'm like, I don't know. I feel like I'm kind of like the anti-hero.
Anti-hero. That's a good story, though.
I do things that people need, but I don't know, but they don't always necessarily like want to go my way. You know what I mean? So I feel like I'm an anti-hero.
Anti-hero. What's interesting and what really is just opening my eyes about this chapter is, and in the book in general, is understanding how these things are wired into us.
Yeah.
These things are wired into us. So even if someone says, oh, that doesn't affect me, it is affecting.
It does.
It is affecting you.
It does affect you, affects you.
whether or not. And then when we read a story, it says we really slip into that protagonist's skin.
Yeah.
We feel what they feel. We experience what they experience, and then we evaluate everything that the other characters do. So that's what stories do. They put the reader, the listener, the watcher into the shoes, the eyes of that character. And that's what I really took away from about having a protagonist, having a story, having a goal in mind. I think what is it that other storybooks that I've written, that I've read, one that I really liked was called the Hero's Two Journeys.
Yes.
I don't know if you've heard that before. And it talks about that's the basic framework for most every single motion picture that you see in Hollywood and any movie theater. And the Hero's Two Journey is having that inner goal and that outer goal, and then a conflict or something that they have to overcome to reach the outer goal. And that's being the protagonist. That's what I kind of slip those two together. And I'm sort of I think I'm not, maybe not, you being an anti-hero, I'm an underdog.
Ooh.
That would be me.
I like that. I like that.
I love the underdog story, the against all odds.
Yeah.
Well, why do you consider yourself an underdog?
I do. Why do I consider myself an underdog?
Yeah, why?
I think that people underestimate me.
Yeah.
People make assumptions about you, and they just, I guess when I was young, I didn't get credit for a lot. I was told that I would not amount to anything.
Yeah.
I was told that I didn't have much opportunity, and I didn't have a lot of potential. So of course
boy, were they wrong.
I was destined to prove people wrong. And I know there's others out there that are being told the same thing, or not being told about the potential they have. So that's why I like the underdog story.
I connect with that too. Like, just listening to both you guys explain your two positions, I'm like, I don't know what I am. I think I'm an underdog as well, because my story about business is, well, I had a very successful grandfather who was great in business, but he refused to have conversations about business with me because I was a woman, or I was a girl. And girls are supposed to grow into women who are barefoot, pregnant, and in the kitchen, and don't act up and fit a certain 1950s housewife role. And so pushing against that, I felt was, that is a foundational part of who I am. And I think I've always put myself in positions where I'm the underdog. I wanted to revolutionize the world when I went to university. And so I chose a particularly, I chose a school that was politically the complete opposite of what I was trying to get at in the world. And I was like, if I can make change in a system that is completely set up opposite of what I'm trying to accomplish, then I think I can accomplish anything. And so I've always kind of fought in that direction. And so thank you for helping me find clarity on that one. Jeez, wow.
Hey.
That's Lefty.
Like, because when you understand who your persona is, it's I think I've always fought against fitting into one of those personas, because I'm like, well, that doesn't define my complexity. It's not about removing your complexity or dulling your shine or trying to push you into a cookie cutter mold. Having those, let's just call them tropes, having those tropes or those buckets or whatever, those easily defined characteristics, that's actually just a simple way to communicate to your audience without them getting lost in the weeds. Because as we learned in secret number 2, we don't want to overwhelm our audience with too much information. We want to give them that information on a need to know basis. So starting out with those, I am an underdog. My story is the underdog story, or my story is the anti-hero. My story is the conqueror. My story is et cetera, et cetera. Understanding those, I think, helps us frame our stories. So that's cool. So,
and in each of those stories, there is a protagonist, there's a conflict, and then there's a goal.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. So chapter 4, we talk about our protagonist. The cognitive secret is that everything we do is goal directed. And our biggest goal is figuring out everyone else's agenda, the better to achieve our own. Oh my goodness. Are you guys like as obsessed with other people's drama as I am? I'm like currently obsessed. I don't even watch the news right now. I am just obsessed with everything to do with Harry and Meghan. Like whatever that train wreck is, I want to know other people's business. And I think that's really, well, everyone follows Russell Brunson because they want to be Russell Brunson, right? And it's because we want to know what other people are doing. The story secret that pairs with this is a protagonist without a clear goal has nothing to figure out and know where to go. So yeah, we have a conflict, we have a resolution at the end, but we need to have that goal in mind to begin with. I know when I'm writing stories, I get stuck on the idea of, but there's so many goals. There's big goals and little goals, and there's goals along the way to achieving the goals. And that's where I get stuck up. But Lefty, when you're telling stories, like, so Lefty's working on this documentary, he's telling a guy's story, and his story is, there's a lot of people and a lot of moving parts. But when you're in that process, Lefty, how do you find clarity in that single story to tell to not get people bogged down in all the other details?
I think it's really just a matter, like, because like there's 2 ways of telling stories, right? Because I do both forms. So there's the true story aspect of a story, and there's the adaptation version of a story where you can take a part of somebody's life and recreate it in your own image, essentially, right?
Okay.
Without obviously still sticking to true facts. Like, just because adaptation, don't go balls to the wall and change completely. I feel like, and this is great because I've had the opportunity to do both, right? Working with Robert J. Moore and then working with Tuan Nguyen, who I'm adaptation for. So in Robert's aspect, there was a lot of moving parts because he had we brought in cameos. We brought in people from the past to talk about like their experiences with him and whatnot. What I found kept everything on track, and this is probably one of like I mean, you can get into more crazier experiments as you build your own creativity, but the one thing that to help you start off today, if you are somebody who wants to document the storytelling and all that, ask everybody the same exact questions. Because it might sound boring to be like, okay, I'm going to go through the 10th person and I'm going to ask them the same question, but it's the answers that are different, right? And the answers is what's going to give that sizzle to the story, right? And then on the adaptation side of things, it's taking a story that somebody gave you and then rewriting parts to make the person either look worse for dramatic effect or look better for dramatic effect. Now, when I was working with Tuan's adaptation, we added a mix of scenes, and we did it from 2 different sides. One being from Tuan's side, one being from the side of the police. Now, when Tuan's telling us his story, He doesn't know what the cops were doing day in and day out. So that is something that we had to recreate, and we had to imagine how they thought in their brains. And then based on how they thought, we tied it back in to the actual true events that happened in his life. So it's wild to think how crazy your imagination can go, but you gotta stick to, you kind of have to be like, you got to put the blinders on the way they put blinders on horses, and you got to say, okay, what is the end result of this documentary? What is the end goal of this film? And then when you have that, then you can say, okay, this is the direction we're going. All roads, even if there's a curve in the road, all roads need to point to this one last final road. So I guess you could say I George Lucas everybody. I tell them that I'm Luke's father, and then I work my way into my story.
Yes, I'm Luke's father. I'm like, yeah, I'm like Molly. I am like, I don't know. I think I must have clicked on something recently because on my feed, I'm getting alerts from TMZ about all the latest gossip, and I've kind of been getting engulfed in those things. But it's funny because I'm seeing these things happen to me, and I'm saying to myself, okay, these are stories that are kind of captivating me and making me want to click. And then I read the book, and and this comes from this chapter right here, and it talks about constructing the internal obstacle.
Yeah.
And then it says to ask yourself, why is the protagonist scared? What specifically is she scared of that keeps her from achieving her goal? And that was interesting to me because it's not asking what does the protagonist want to accomplish. It's asking about the fear. The fear is what people relate to, and that's the struggle that people can relate to, is the fear. And I thought, wow, that's interesting. That is interesting. It is the fear and the problems that keep people engulfed in these stories. Because when I see, what am I clicking? Is Post Malone okay? Is Post Malone on drugs?
That guy flew off the rail, but that's a different story.
What'd you say?
I said that guy flew off the rail. I don't.
I like him though.
Yeah, no, he's good. That's fear in our industry. It's imposter syndrome, which I believe doesn't actually exist. I feel like it's another lie. And I know I'm going to sound super weird with how I'm about to say this, but I feel like it's another lie given to us by the elite entrepreneurs to keep the rest of us poor, to keep the rest of us from not achieving goals. Because why is it, like, if you really think about it, someone who came from poverty and, let's say, eating out of garbage cans, and somebody who was born with a silver spoon in their mouth, both have equal opportunities to make $1 million. So where does imposter syndrome really lie in that, right? I honestly feel like it's the big lie. It's the big lie. It doesn't exist. It's not, it's just something to make you think otherwise. Like, I can't charge that because I feel like this. I can't do that because of this. It's a state of mind that doesn't exist. Like the word try. You can't try to do something. You either do it or you don't.
Well, no one can tell Elon Musk what he can or can't do. He just changed the entire name of a successful brand.
Right. But that's what I'm trying to get at. Even at any stage of the game, like even if, like when everybody was telling me, for example, and I was still just getting into the coaching space. Oh, Lefty, you're crazy for leaving shorts. Shorts is like the be all end all, and this is where you have to go, and this is what you have to create. I was like, no, screw that.
No, Molly says to not do it.
You know, nobody can tell you how to run your business. Nobody can tell you what you should and shouldn't charge, right? I mean, like, if you feel like you can get like 20, 30, 40, 50 grand from somebody, yo, I'm going to shake your hand. Get the 50 grand from somebody. Just because maybe 100 people might not pay for that because they might think that you're like blowing smoke out your ass. Somebody will come around and be like, sure, here's 50 grand. You know what I mean? And that's all you need to care about is that one person that's willing to pay for it.
That is an entirely completely different subject, really.
Oh, it is. Because we're talking about the fear of the protagonist, and I think imposter syndrome is one of the biggest fears that we feel we have based on what level we're at in our game. Right? Like if I was to, and I'm one to feel it all the time. If you were to put me on stage with Christopher Nolan and James Cameron, I'd freeze. I would freeze. I would feel like I'm not worthy to be on that stage.
And why would you feel that way?
And here's the greatest answer of all time, which I'm sure a lot of people will give you this answer. Mark, I have no idea why I would feel. And the majority of entrepreneurs will give you that answer. I don't know why I feel that way, which goes to show that as the protagonist, you shouldn't fear as the business owner. As the customer, there's many fears. Fear of paying your rent, fear of not getting that dream car, fear of not getting that dream vacation, fear of
putting in all of that work and it not paying off.
You could say that we're being sold fear and there are a lot of people buying it.
Yeah.
That's exactly that is it's I mean, it's okay to a degree. It's okay to a degree, but when you remove ethics from the process, then you just become, like, in my eyes, you become a bad human being.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah. 100%.
That's
wrong with giving somebody their truths, right? To say, hey, look, gave me the facts. Like, you probably won't have a roof over your month, right? But if you're just giving somebody like BS because you're trying to use fear and your product being the best, and there's no real context behind it, it is what it is. I don't know. Like,
yeah, I think that speaks about the power of the advertising and marketing and sales. Really, it is powerful. Influence, persuasion, and being able to influence people's decision. It's powerful, and it can be used for good, and it can also be used selfishly. Yeah.
Well, I'm going to be selfish for a little bit.
Yes. Yes.
I've been working on something.
I'm so excited.
So this is inspired by the book club. I've been in awe of all of the information we've been learning. And I thought, hey, let's bust that imposter syndrome and let's put my name up with those as well. So I am in the process of writing my very own book. It's going to be called The Brand Code. It's the power of personality in building memorable brands. This is not what the final cover is going to look like. So what I did was I wrote out the core content of the book, and then just printed a copy. So I'm going to scratch all over this. I'm going to write all my edits. I have a lot more story that I need to put in to help contextualize the different things. But it's all about breaking down this idea of branding and finding a way to authentically bring ourselves out in a way that doesn't overly complicate everything. So I've come up with 8 different brand archetypes that are based on personality tests. So you do this quick little personality test about your brand, and you figure out what your brand archetype is. And that helps you understand what type of content should you be putting out that really speaks to your brand, keeping that cohesion across all of your platforms. How do you communicate? What do you communicate? What stories are you telling? All of that is wrapped up into the brand code. So if you've never done branding before, if you've never really thought about your brand and your visual identity, this is definitely the book you want to pick up. So I will be sharing updates as this happens, because now it is something tangible. It's not just a manuscript on my computer anymore. So yeah,
that is so impressive. I am so happy to see you, especially knowing that it was earlier, the beginning of this year, when you had it on your little wall behind you to write a book this year, and to see this actually happen. We're going to petition for you to be on the stage at Funnel Hacking Live and teach this everybody. These archetypes need to be learned by everyone.
And don't worry, I will be putting both of these guys through the brand code ringer, and we're going to come up with their brand archetypes as well.
Oh man, that is so wonderful to see, Molly. That is so wonderful to see. And it's like now you have that physical book right there. And I think it looks good. I can't wait to see what the final copy looks like, and I can't wait even more to actually get into it and read it. It's going to be amazing.
I'm so excited. And I wanted to show you guys this today because it's not the final cover design. It's not the final interior. This is a rough draft, but I needed to make it tangible. I needed to be able to have something in my hands to say, all right, this isn't perfect, but I have the ability to make it better. And so if you're thinking out there, whether you're watching live or on the replay, if you've ever thought, hey, I got a cool story, or I have something that I have learned in my life that I want to share, or I'm an expert in something, and Lefty and I were talking about this earlier. Lefty wants to write a book because he's a little bit done with going over all the intro stuff with his coaching clients. So why not put all the intro stuff and the foundational information into a book so clients can take on that? They can write their notes, they can work through that process, and they can ask him for clarification when they get stuck on certain points, but it doesn't require the same number of hours to individually work one-on-one with each of those clients. So put down your stuff into a book. And so this is definitely not the last book you're getting out of me, guys. Just deal with it. So hopefully this will be, I'm just going to say it, the brand code might be one of the very first books we read for 2024.
Oh, baby.
I'm ready.
Well, I'm
ready.
Technically think about it. I did get my feet wet with a book. I did that collaboration with Robert J. Moore and a bunch of other entrepreneurs where I wrote a chapter. I wrote a 1,500 word chapter.
Really?
Actually 2,000 words, but I think 250 of them had to be like a biography or like a bio. But it's funny because the experience that I had with writing a book, or writing a chapter at least, was I sat down, I looked at my Word document because that's where I did everything, and I was like, oh my God, I don't even know what the heck I'm going to write about. And all of a sudden I start typing, and then I start typing, And I look at my word count and I was like, holy crap, I'm maybe like 3 sentences in and I already have like 100 words. This is gonna be a breeze. I was like, this is gonna be so easy. All of a sudden, once I hit that, it was like a never ending road just to get to like 500 words. And then it got a little bit easier to get to, let's say, 1,000 words. But then the moment I hit 1,100, that's where things got scary, because now I have in the back of my head, what do you mean I only have 400 more characters, right? Like, I wasn't even, I was like not even close to finishing, but I still had so much information to give.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh my God, I don't know how I'm going to finish this in such a little time. But luckily I did it. And I'm really excited for that book too. I'm excited to see what everybody else put in there. Jim Beard, our fellow visibility hacker, Jim Beard, he wrote a chapter in that book as well, along with the Sales Ninja Jay Lee and a bunch of other beautiful and amazing people. So I don't even know what people wrote about. I can't wait to read it. I can't wait to read your book too, Molly. 2024 is going to be so good. And the fact that I'm so close, guys. I'm this close to live.
It's gonna happen.
You're going to be there.
And I'm just gonna sweeten the pot, because we all know that Lefty is selling video sales letters where that you can get recorded in person. He will script it, do the whole thing. He will direct you. He will film you in person at Funnel Hacking Live. So you walk away having accomplished something, because that feeling of productivity, beautiful. And I know in the funnel hacking space, it is so easy to come up with great ideas, but never finish that execution. So Lefty is here to make sure that gets done. And I promised that I would add in some extra bonuses. We're going to have some meet and greets. We're going to have some masterminds that are going to happen, but I'm going to sweeten the pot because I will send you a signed copy of the brand code. If you film in person at Funnel Hacking Live with Lefty, I will give you a copy of the brand code, and I will one-on-one work through the process with you, so you really understand who your archetype is and how you can implement that for your business. So that is my way of supporting one of my favorite people in the visibility hacking world, Mr. Lefty. So yeah. So hurry up. So how do you get that? You go over to getlefty2fhl.com. Oh, perfect. Look at that marketing opportunity. I can't even.
It's right. Get Lefty to FHL.
There we go.
It's right over there. Get Lefty to FHL.com.
There's literally like 3 or 4 more spots left. I mean, we had 10 to start with, and now we are just down to like,
oh my goodness,
stretch of people. So,
and it's only the beginning of August. I thought you wouldn't sell out for a while. Oh shoot. Okay.
Yeah, we're about 6 weeks from Funnel Hacking Live. Yeah.
3 spots. I'm going to comfortably say 3 spots left, but I'm saying 4 just in case, it ends up really being 9 instead of 10. But I think comfortably there's 3 spots left. So
that's awesome. Oh, and I'm going to be filming one with Lefty while we're down there. So if you just want to hang out and see what it looks like, and then feel the FOMO of not having purchased, come on, join us. But if you don't want that FOMO and you want to feel like you're part of the exclusive community of people who are getting stuff done, well, check.
And look, maybe if the schedule allows for it and I'm not super swamped, you potentially could just pay on the spot when you're there, because I know I can't reach everybody during this time, but I cannot guarantee that you're going to get your spot. I just can't.
What days are you planning to get there?
I am probably going to be there from literally like Monday to Sunday, or even just Monday to even maybe the following Wednesday, because I do want to spend some time in Orlando. There's a few things that I personally want to do myself that I know that I'm not going to have an opportunity to do it while I'm at the
Yeah, it's a jam-packed days.
I bet. So that's
I'm getting there on Monday.
Monday. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go Monday. I'm gonna go Monday to Wednesday.
I'm trying to do a Sunday to Sunday.
Nice.
That's
So
how
we will have a book club meetup on Monday night. How's that?
Oh,
let's
yes.
do it.
Oh, I'm pumped. I'm pumped.
Let's do it.
And don't forget, those of you who are either joining us at Funnel Hacking Live or you are watching us virtually while we're down there in September, but we're going to do a little different episode for the Thursday of Funnel Hacking Live. And we're going to review some of the books that we've gotten access to at the event. We're going to talk about that process. So it's going to be a little bit different than our usual episodes. We won't be specifically looking at a book that week. We're going to be looking at a whole bunch of stuff, talking about the great ways that people are using their books as marketing materials. We're going to look at the content of a lot of these books. We're going to reflect on some of the great ones we've gotten over the years because, oh man, there are some fantastic reads that we get access to. So, and don't forget, our most active members of the book club are still up for some prizes. Remember, we got copies of books for you, and so much more. Yeah. Yay.
I gotta start working on my tan.
Talking about working on my tan, it is time to wrap up today's episode so we can all get outside and enjoy the beautiful weather we are having. So thank you all so much for joining us this week. Don't forget to subscribe to the Visibility Hackers YouTube channel. Go check out Mark's channel as well, The Mental Marketer. Check out Lefty, Create with Lefty, because I promise you, if you want great content that's going to help you move your business forward in a way that you're not hanging out with the big slimy gurus who are coming up with these fake imposter syndromes to stop you from achieving. Come hang out with the underdogs. And we got so much more coming for you in the fall as well. So yeah. So pick up your copy of Lisa Cron's Wired for Stories so you can follow us along, and make sure you scan that QR code underneath Mark so you can get access to the whole playlist. You get access to all of the episodes and all of the previous books we've covered this year. So yeah! All right, my friends, everyone say goodbye.